Okay, welcome back. Today, you'll see we're coming to you from the Supreme Court chambers here in the Wisconsin State Capitol, and I'm joined by my friend, Attorney Matthew Underwood. Matt, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Tom.
And Matt, I really appreciate you being here today because this question comes from Madison, and Matt operates a boutique estate planning and elder law firm right in Madison, where we both went to law school. So I'll get right into the question, Matt, because it's a complex one, and that's why I'm having you answer it today.
All right, we'll do my best.
So the question is, what defines the principal value of an asset? And then there's a bunch of detail, and I'm going to just hit the high points of the detail. The questioner says, our income trust is an asset protecting irrevocable trust, which in the section titled Lifetime Trust Principal Beneficiaries names 3 people we selected as our beneficiaries. A section further down separates us from our assets by stating no payment or distribution of the principal of the trust shall be made to us, etc., etc. Hence, we have access to the income generated by our assets, but no access to the principal. My question, what defines the principal value of an asset? Accountants see the terms principal and cost basis as synonymous, but I suspect when used in this relation surrounding asset protection, the principal may have another meaning. So that's the question there, Matt, and I'll let you try to unpack it.
Sure. So we're dealing with somebody who has a irrevocable trust, and based on the situation, these are commonly set up when people have assets that they'd like to protect, and in particular protect those assets if they or their spouse were to go into a nursing home. So what we have here is somebody who said, hey, I want to protect some of my assets from long-term care costs, and they set up an irrevocable trust, which is an income-only trust. And what that means is that in order to get that long-term care protection from that irrevocable trust, is the people setting up that trust can't have direct access to those assets anymore. So for example, if I want to set up an irrevocable trust and I want to protect my house from long-term care costs, I need to put my house into that trust. And then after 5 or more years, that house would be essentially off limits in terms of long-term care costs. So the way this trust is set up is it prevents the people setting up that trust from being able to withdraw principal. And when we say principal, what we typically mean is kind of that core money that went into that asset. So if I purchase a house and I purchase the house for $100,000, well, that's my principal amount, that $100,000 that I put in. So in order to get that protection, the trust says, well, you can't reach principal. Principal is off limits to you. So that's protecting that principal. Now the question comes in is, the people who set up that trust can access income. So what is income and what is principal, and what can they actually take out of that irrevocable trust? So again, principal is kind of that starter money, or the money that you put in to purchase an asset. When we talk about income, we're usually looking at things like interest, dividends, rent from rental property. If the trust were to own a business, any sort of income that business generates could be considered income. So one of the things that we commonly see, and I would really caution the person asking the question about this, is we really need to look at the language in that trust and how that trust is set up, because chances are that irrevocable trust tells us what is considered income and what is considered principal. So I think really what we need to do is start there and see what that trust says, because I often see trusts that have language in there saying that if there is income in that trust, that if that income doesn't get taken out during the year, it becomes principal. So we can even have trusts where where money that's considered income changes to principal.
Yep.
So we need to be really, really careful with that. So, when it comes to principal, one of the other questions is capital gains. So if I purchase some stock for $100, now that stock's worth $1,000. There's, some gains built into that investment. Sometimes capital gains are treated as income, sometimes they're treated as principal. So again, it comes down to looking at, what is that language in the trust? And if it's not in there, then we have to look to state law. So this is a pretty in-depth question, but again, I'd recommend talking to either the estate planning attorney that helped them set up the trust, or contacting a different estate planning attorney who's knowledgeable at trust and can kind of walk through the terms with you, and then decide, what is income and principal. And one other note on that is that when we help people set up these types of trusts, we're often looking at setting up no income trusts. And the reason for that is when we have an income trust, all of that income would be available to a nursing home. So if we want to protect not only the principal, but we want to protect the income, we're going to need to also restrict the trust maker's assets to that income. So that's a very long answer there, Tom, but those are kind of the issues that I see, at least initially, on it.
No, that's great. Thanks. I think you unpacked it well without knowing more about what the questioner specifically has in that trust, because a lot of what you pointed out is it's going to depend on the asset, right? So in your example, if we put a house in a trust, a lot of times houses don't throw off any income. So then the principal is just going to be the value of that house on the date we signed the deed and transferred it into the trust. But for this guy's question, we need to know more about what type of asset this is and the income it's throwing off. And I think what you were saying there, Matt, is first we're going to look at the terms of the trust itself. And then if the trust is unclear, we go to state law, the Wisconsin Trust Code, to figure it out. But overall, you gave them a great pathway here. And I think the best answer is sit down, like you said, with the lawyer who drafted this trust, or if they're not available, another lawyer like Matt, who's right in Madison and can help you understand it, because as he pointed out, that principal can change to income, or the income, can become principal if it's kept in the trust. So you really want to figure this out as you move along with that trust. So thanks, Matt. I appreciate you taking this hard question today, and thank you for joining us.
Oh, thanks for having me, Tom.
Thank you for watching. We'll see you next time.